All right, everyone, here we go with the down pose. So this is the pose that if I grab all of this here and go into my graph editor. So we have our contact poses here, here, and off the grid. We have our passing poses here and here. The down pose is after the contact pose. So happening kind of like right there. So it's contact, down, and then passing, and then up will happen right here, which we'll do afterwards. So I'm going to bring this off screen. Some things to know about the down pose. So this is the lowest point. Hence it's called down. It's also the place where the arms are furthest apart. And this is why I didn't spend very long with the arms on my passing poses, because it's gonna, the interpolation is not quite there. It doesn't feel like the arms are moving enough compared to the legs, and that's because they're not. there's this breakdown essentially that's missing. Also, the flat foot is, the front foot is flat on the ground, but the body's not quite over it on the weight yet. It's like making its way there. It will be in terms of your like left and right sides on that side, but in terms of its forward motion, it's not going to be there quite yet. And it's directly after this that maybe like the head might, bounce down a little bit. So I've got my reversal here, so this is what I'm going to do. Before I go anywhere though, I had this saved as a passing pose. And just because I'm me and I'm like this, I'm going to save this as the down pose. Only now realizing that these things are not in alphabetical order and I probably should have numbered them, so I'll probably do that later. There we go. All right, so the down pose happens around here and around here. And we can adjust that later if we need to, but I'm going to hit S on the keyboard just to give everything a key in case something doesn't change. And let's go. Yeah, so first thing I'm actually going to do is move the hips down a little bit. And then we can move the foot back. I'm going to take off all of these. And I'm going to move this foot up a bit. I'm going to, yeah, I'm probably going to take off all of that and instead rotate this a bit. Do I want? Maybe a little bit. I'll have to see what I kind of want to do. And I'm also remembering that it's not... There we go. So forward-wise, it's not over the foot yet, but it is left to right-wise over the foot. All right, and if we check it out in the right collection a little bit, when the arms are moving the most out, that may also be the point at which the shoulders are kind of the most turned. But this is where, this contact pose is where the hips would have been the most turned. So I have to sort of consider turning the shoulders a bit more into their pose, but unturning the hips a little bit because they're not having to reach anymore for anything. Well, unturning the hips in terms of this direction, but moving them a little bit more because we're now putting our weight on this, and then making adjustments to these interim ones to have the back, make a little bit more sense. And as usual, first thing I move, I overdo it a little bit. There we go. And thinking, because the arm is moving backwards at this point. Remember, I have sort of a bit of an exaggerated, like, high energy walk. But move that down a little bit too much. The arm, the hand is moving behind the arm. So if this is the sort of lowest or the farthest apart that the arms are, then it's also, let me see, this wrist is going to eventually flip back and go into the other direction. I'm not sure what direction I want this wrist to be in as of yet. But one last thing I'll do before I even compare it to anything or go any further is fix the head, because of course I've just moved the shoulders around a lot, and in moving the shoulders it, you know, moved that. So I believe everything has been moved, and yep, we're on step keyframe, so I can do this. I can test that, and I can also, hold up, test how this is looking. So there we're going from down to passing, so it's moving up quite a bit. And I think I've made my down pose a little bit too close to where the contact was in terms of this foot and this foot. So we're going to be kind of giving a little bit more motion to that. And everyone's is going to be a little bit different, right? Like these are not going to be identical. I'm also going to be checking this. And it's at this point that I would recognize I want to make a bit of a change to how much that is twisted. And remember, I will have to, at some point, go back and take this key and copy it over here. Not right now. I don't need to worry about it right now. Make sure everything's keyed. I think I actually am doing the back foot wrong. Yep, I want it to be, I need to have it, oh, nope, that's the wrong one. A little bit closer to where it was in terms of the foot. Like where that toe is lifting off. Yeah, there we go. As if it's just left the ground. So we can see the hips turning. It's actually a moment where all of this is kind of like turning in the same direction because the hips are kind of starting to move in this direction. Like they've changed directions, but the top of the torso has not changed directions yet. All right, so I'm going to pause briefly. I'm just going to maybe finesse a couple things, including the, you know, making sure the head does what I want it to do. And when we come back, it'll just be a little bit altered. All right, things I did while paused, just real quick. One of the things is that I didn't like how little it was, the character was landing. So I worked to try and get the hips a little bit higher here. It's kind of tricky because I don't want this leg to pop. So I'm editing the pose a little bit so that this leg is pretty straight, but that this one wasn't, you know, quite popping like that. and also engaging the shoulder blades a little bit, and then tweaking the head after that just to make sure it's doing what I want it to do as it's going. I also made the arms go forward a little bit more. I kind of wanted a little bit more of a difference from contact to down, the way I have between down and passing. So now, of course, my job is to make a reversal. So if the down pose over here is on frame 4, then the down pose over here would be frame 16. So I'm going to do all those reversals while paused and come right back to you. All right, so reversal done on this. Reminder of how that works. So you want to go to the frame that you're copying, drag select all these controls, and then in your graph editor, select these to copy, move to the correct frame, and then paste within here. We're going to double check and make sure I didn't post anything within here. I did not this time, but I should have saved before I did that, just in case I messed something up. And then I go through and I reverse things, and how I reverse things depends on what it is. The feet, shoulders, and wrist, I have to write down what the numbers are and then transplant them, to the other foot. Occasionally things have to be inverted between positive and negative, but I have to, do a write things down kind of situation. For the hips, both sets of hips, all the back, the neck, the head, I don't have to write anything down. I just go in and I don't invert the X for most of the back and head, because that's the forwards, backwards. That's the same for both sides. But I do invert the rotate Y and the rotate Z. For this hip situation right here, I do invert the translate X, but not the translate Y. And then as it turns out, the elbows are almost exactly the same anyways. But then I can turn off the controls in here and I can check. And you can see it's really close silhouette value. So I'm very clearly, kind of keeping this. And one of the things that changes is you can see where the lines are intersecting there, because it's moving left to right. So it's moving more of it is in front of or behind the flat grid that is sitting there. All right, so that is our down pose. That is how. Let's see. So this is how it is on this side, to go from contact to down to passing. And then this is how it is on this side, to go from contact to down to passing. And, yep, next video will be the up pose, the last major pose.